The most bizarre 10,000 ways to die take turns to appear, having her head cut off by a teppanyaki master, trampled into minced meat by 67 galloping wild horses, even lighting a gas can turn one into a burning fireball. The entire town is surrounded by various unnatural death incidents. What exactly caused these disasters? Welcome to the latest thriller The Monkey, produced by the horror master James Wan. On a normal night, a man entered a roadside grocery store carrying a toy monkey. Looking nervous, he wanted to give the toy monkey to the shopkeeper, and specifically warned not to treat the toy casually, or else it would bring bad luck. The shopkeeper saw the man covered in blood and acting crazy, and was about to find a random excuse to refuse, but suddenly, the toy monkey on the table started drumming, and then an accident happened. An arrow from a soldier toy suddenly shot over and pierced through the shopkeeper's belly. The man completely lost his sanity. He picked up a flamethrower and burned the toy monkey, but the toy monkey instantly restored itself. Several years later, the man's two sons had grown up, one named Hall and the other named Bill. Bill was born 3 minutes earlier than Hall, so he was considered the older brother. Hall disliked Bill very much, even fantasizing about killing his brother, but he never acted on it. The two brothers were raised entirely by their mother. When the sons asked about their father's whereabouts, she always said, "Your father said he was going out to buy cigarettes, but he never came back." Although their mother resented their father for leaving her, she still kept his things intact. One night, the brothers rummaged through their father's pile of junk, and found a blue gift box containing a perfectly intact toy monkey. On the back of the box was a label that read, "Turn the key and see what happens." Bill found the clockwork behind the monkey, and despite his brother's objections, he twisted it a few times. The toy monkey suddenly grinned and started drumming, but then there were no further movements. Bill thought the toy monkey might be broken, and tossed it to his brother. The next morning, their mother handed the two children over to the nanny Annie for care. Hal opened the car door, and saw the toy monkey sitting inside. He didn't think much of it, just assuming it was his brother playing a prank. They went to a teppanyaki restaurant with the nanny to eat. The head chef seemed interested in the young nanny, making heart-shaped fried rice, while the two were exchanging glances. The toy monkey in the car inexplicably sat in the driver's seat, and then started drumming frantically. The next moment, the chef wielded a knife and sliced off Annie's entire head. The iron plate sizzled the head. Hall's family attended Annie's funeral. At that time, they hadn't yet connected this accident to the strange toy monkey. The mother saw that the two children were feeling down, so she comforted them, saying that everyone will die. "I will die, you will die too. All friends and their parents around will die." Although that day was the day Annie died, in Hall's memory, it was a very happy day, because such scenes of maternal love and filial piety often don't last long. The bad kids at school always bullied Hall, even forcing him to take off his pants and walk home in his underwear after school. The busy mother never noticed her son being bullied, until Hall returned to his room, and found the toy monkey placed on the table. He thought his mother had put it there, but she said she hadn't been in the brothers' room. In the evening, Hall felt more and more uneasy. He stood up and stared at the monkey, and realized that on the day Annie died, he faintly heard the sound of drumming. Could Annie's death be related to the toy monkey? As Hall was lost in his thoughts, Bill suddenly came over to mock him, and asked Hall if he wanted to be a monkey's wife, continuously insulting his younger brother with vulgar language. Weak Hall could only endure Bill's bullying. The next day in class, Hall found the monkey back in his school bag, while a female classmate laughed loudly, and reported to the teacher that Hall brought the monkey to school. Bill's bullying behavior escalated, as he, along with a few other bad kids, bullied his brother, pouring mashed bananas all over Hall. He ran home in a mess. His mother turned a blind eye to her younger son's plight. Hall was angry and ran back to his room, expressing his discontent to the toy monkey.
"I wish Bill was dead."
After Hall finished speaking, he twisted the clockwork, watching as the toy monkey raised its drumstick once again, and this time, there was no pause. It quickly started drumming joyfully. For some reason, the sound of this music made Hal anxious, and at this moment, Bill also returned home from school. He greeted his mother as usual, but she didn't respond for a while, and the next moment, his mother stiffly turned around, blood trickling down from her head. In just one day, the two brothers attended a second funeral. The doctor said that their mother died from a rare aneurysm, but Hall knew very well in his heart that it was the toy monkey that had killed her. Once Hall turned the clockwork, his loved ones and friends around him would be harmed. Even his usually indifferent brother showed signs of losing control due to the loss of their mother at the funeral. Hal felt extremely guilty, so that night, he took out a kitchen knife, ready to chop up this toy that caused harm. But when he struck down with the knife, the toy's severed arm actually oozed fresh blood. Hall felt terrified and he wildly hacked and chopped. He dismantled the toy monkey into pieces and threw it into the trash can. The next day, the two brothers left the town with their aunt to start anew in a new place. Hall thought this was the end of the story, as their aunt didn't have children of her own, so she took care of them. However, the pain of losing their mother was hard to heal. In the evening, unable to sleep, the two watched TV downstairs. Bill noticed two glowing dots outside the window, and couldn't resist going to take a closer look. To his surprise, it was the reflection of the toy monkey's eyes. The toy monkey sitting inside their aunt's house. Bill thought his brother had brought it there, but Hall was very excited and said, "I had already dismantled the toy monkey into pieces and thrown it into the trash can. Why is it appearing here intact?" Hall could no longer bear the secret alone, so he told his brother his suspicions. "This toy monkey possesses evil magic. It will harm the people around us." After Bill listened to his brother, he suggested turning the clockwork again. "Perhaps the next one to die will be you. I promise to pretend to be very sad when you die." These words angered Hall, and in defiance, he agreed to Bill's proposal, wanting to see who between them would die. The two naive children once again committing a taboo. Unfortunately, this time it was Uncle Chip who died, while camping in a sleeping bag, trampled to death by 67 wild horses. Hall heard from the funeral attendees that when the police unzipped the sleeping bag for inspection, his uncle had already been trampled into mincemeat. The two brothers dared not try anything further. They chained up the toy monkey and threw it into a deep bottomless well. For the next 25 years, they never saw that terrifying monkey again, until one calm night, their twin aunt awoke from a dream. She heard eerie music coming from the basement. She grabbed a pistol and went to investigate, but the basement light suddenly failed, leaving her in darkness. The aunt had to grope her way back upstairs. When halfway up, the wooden staircase collapsed, causing her to fall into fishing gear, her face covered in fish hooks. The aunt cleaned her wounds in pain, but the nightmare of this night had only just begun. At this moment, a smell of gas filled the kitchen. The aunt quickly grabbed a kettle, bent over the gas stove to smell, when suddenly a burst of flame shot out from the stove, setting her head on fire. The heart-wrenching pain made her run wildly. The next second, the aunt stepped on a flower vase and collided with a roadside sign. At this moment, Hall was still unaware that the old nightmares had resurfaced. Over the years, he distanced himself from family and friends, living his solitary and ordinary life. One day after work, Hall asked his boss for leave to visit his son, which surprised the boss greatly. As no one knew he had a son, Hall only allowed himself to visit his son once a year, to avoid bringing bad luck to him. Others couldn't understand Hall's actions, as he had never explained the reasons. His son Pete had already found a foster family, so the responsible person gently told Hall that he didn't need to visit Pete anymore. After all, Hall and Pete were father and son, so the organization gave them a week to spend together, allowing them to create some good memories. Hall took Pete to a nearby hotel to stay temporarily, and then they could plan how to spend the week. Pete knew very little about his father, and asked if he had any siblings. Hall didn't want to mention Bill, so he told his son that he was an only child. After a few awkward conversations, they went to sleep. In the evening, Hall felt himself lifted by a giant monkey arm, and the next moment, he was slammed onto a table in the basement by the toy monkey dressed in funeral attire, holding a shiny knife. It swung towards him. Hall suddenly woke up from the dream, adjusted the air conditioning temperature and lay back down, unexpectedly receiving a call from Bill. They hadn't been in touch for 10 years. Bill called out of the blue, as he received a police notification about their aunt's death. As relatives, they needed to go and identify her belongings, but Bill was too far from their aunt's house, so he asked Hall who was closer to go instead. Moreover, he had a feeling that their aunt's death was likely related to the toy monkey. Hall thought his brother was overthinking it, saying, "The monkey is at the bottom of a well. What trouble could it cause?" He believed their aunt died of natural causes due to her age. While the brothers were talking, a young woman walked towards the hotel pool, followed by a malfunction of the air conditioning unit above, nearly crashing down on Hall. At this moment, electricity flowed through the water trail into the pool.
Wait! Fuck!
Turning the pool red with blood, Hall rushed back to the room, screaming with a pillow over his head. He quickly woke up the sleeping Pete, wanting to take his son home first. This accident was definitely not a coincidence. Hall couldn't risk Pete getting hurt. He explained to his son about their aunt's accidental death, and the need to return home to handle the affairs. Pete wanted to go back with Hall, because he knew that the aunt had raised his father. He wanted to visit the place where his father had lived. Hal immediately refused, but Pete said, "We only have this week. I want to spend more time with you." Hall couldn't bear to refuse, so he took Pete back home with him. That night, Hal had a nightmare, seeing his mother bleeding from 7 orifices seeking his life. He woke up to find Pete missing, almost scared to death, but relieved when he found out Pete was just out for a walk, and returned to the hotel shortly after. Soon they arrived at their aunt's house. Hall initially wanted Pete to wait in the car, but Pete insisted on using the restroom, knowing he was just making an excuse to go inside and look around. Reluctantly, he took Pete inside. The real estate agent Barbara had already removed most of the furniture, leaving the house empty. Barbara couldn't help but complain to Hall about how busy the real estate center had been lately. With his aunt's sudden death, Mr. Mickey crushed by a lawnmower the next day, Mr. Bird dying from steam burns, and a young man killed by a giant cobra while playing golf. In short, the town had been very unsettled lately, with people dying one after another for a week. Barbara seemed to not take these disasters seriously, as whenever a plane crash occurred, or a school bus accident happened, or similar large-scale death events occurred, her mother would always say, "It seems tonight is God's bowling night." At this moment, Barbara was not aware that she was the next bowling pin to be knocked down by God. Barbara took out the keys and opened the basement. Hall pulled out Barbara's severed finger from his mouth. Realizing that the toy monkey had probably come back to life, the police arrived to take statements after receiving the call, while Pete remained gloomy, having seen a photo of the twin brothers, not understanding why his father lied to him. Later that night, Bill called again, learning that the monkey wasn't at their aunt's house. He asked Hall to stay in town and wait for further instructions. Hall realized that Bill might also be in town. Just as he was about to ask more questions, the other person hung up. Hall picked up the nearby phone book and flipped through it, surprisingly finding a number listed as Mrs. Monkey. He immediately dialed to confirm.
Hello, if this is in regards to my ad, I'm happy to report that my quest for finding my beloved toy monkey is over.
It was clearly Bill's voice. Could it be that all these years, my brother has been searching for the toy monkey? 25 years ago, after Bill discarded the toy monkey, he realized that his little brother killed their mother by twisting the clockwork. He carried anger and returned to the dry well, hoping to find the toy monkey again, but the box in the well had vanished, leaving behind only a damaged clockwork. Bill felt this was a sign, indicating that the toy monkey would return one day, so he had been waiting for that day to arrive. One day, Bill was eating in a Chinese restaurant, and pulled out a fortune cookie slip, which read, "Turn the key and see what happens." Bill looked around cautiously, and saw the twin shop owner smoking behind the counter, while the Chinese calendar on the wall showed that it was the year of the monkey. From then on, Bill was consumed by it. Seeing the toy monkey's figure everywhere he went, he started searching everywhere for the monkey, but even after searching his aunt's house thoroughly, he couldn't find it. During this time, Bill gradually descended into madness, putting back on his childhood funeral suit, believing he had become an agent of death. From this, it is evident that Bill still retained his mindset from his teenage years, hating the world, resenting everyone around him for losing his mother, obsessed with using the toy monkey to seek revenge on society. Soon after, Bill saw an advertisement in the newspaper, learning that the real estate agent was auctioning some of their aunt's belongings. He immediately went to the scene to investigate, and indeed found the toy monkey, placing the clockwork he had found years ago back into the toy monkey. This triggered a series of fatal accidents. That night, Bill twisted the clockwork once more, hoping the toy monkey would punish the brother who caused their mother's death. Instead, it was Hall's boss who died, as he was buying something from a vending machine, but accidentally stepped on a rake, and the cigarette in his hand was pushed into his mouth, choking him to death on the spot. Upon learning that his brother had a son, he immediately came up with a new idea. What would happen if Pete turned the key? Meanwhile, Barbara's death further strained the relationship between the father and son, with Pete wanting to live with his father, but Hall, fearing the toy monkey's harm, became more determined to send Pete away. He refused to explain the reasons behind his decision, simply pushing his son away. After returning to the motel, Pete sulked and hid in the bathroom. Hall took the opportunity to contact his brother, warning him not to twist the key randomly, as all the victims were innocent, and it wasn't them who caused their mother's death. If this continued, Hall feared that Pete would be affected by the toy monkey. Unexpectedly, Bill made a demand. "If you want me to stop, bring Pete here. Let him turn the clockwork himself, as the one who twists the clockwork will never die. This is the only way to keep Pete safe." Bill said, "Either I turn it, or Pete does. I only give you these two options," and then hung up the phone. Hall immediately knocked on the door and called out to Pete, ready to send him back home. Pete was unhappy. "If you didn't want me, why did you have me in the first place?" Hall, in a moment of anxiety, lost his composure in his words, shouting, "I was too young back then. Having you was just an accident." He realized he had gone too far after saying this, quickly explaining that while Pete's birth was unexpected, it was a beautiful accident. Just as he finished speaking, there was a sudden knock on the door. A long-haired young man posing as a police officer took Hall and his son downstairs to Bill. He had heard about the strange magical powers of the toy monkey and wanted to obtain this magical treasure. He ordered Pete to slip into the building and bring the toy monkey out. As the young man was holding a gun, the father and son had to comply. Pete crawled into the building through a dog door, unaware that Bill had set up a trap, nearly cutting off Pete's head. He kept his wits about him and carefully avoided the other obstacles, eventually finding Bill. Bill falsely claimed that the toy monkey's clockwork was faulty, and asked Pete if he could help fix it. Although his father had warned him not to touch the toy, Pete still turned the clockwork at the back. The toy monkey quickly began to play the drum by waving its hands. At the same time, the fake police officer scratched his head with a gun, accidentally shooting through a nearby beehive. The next moment, the furious bees emerged, flying through the bullet hole and into the fake officer's mouth, where they wriggled frantically inside his body. Terrified, Hall quickly opened the car door to find his son, Bill. Upon hearing his brother's voice, flew into a rage. I had his own son turn the clockwork. Why hasn't Hall died yet? He snatched the toy monkey, ordering it to kill Hall immediately, but no matter how hard Bill tried, the monkey refused to continue playing the drum. Instead, it knocked Bill back several meters. At this moment, the toy monkey suddenly raised its arms and began to drum frantically. It seemed to be responding to Bill's anger, but it wasn't Hall who faced the consequences. Bill heard the roar of an airplane, and as he approached the window to look, he saw a crashed plane fallen in a nearby neighborhood. As the toy monkey continued to drum, the ceiling above collapsed, continuously dropping dead bodies. Soon after, Hall arrived, questioning his brother why he restarted the toy monkey. Bill coldly explained, "Because you killed our mother. I know you twisted the clockwork back then, intending to kill me, but it's clear the toy monkey kills randomly, not following the instructions of the one twisting the clockwork." Hall asked his brother if he remembered what their mother used to say, that everyone will meet their end. Their mother's passing wasn't his fault, nor was it Bill's fault. None of us should bear this pain, but the dead cannot be brought back to life. Twins are the closest family. We should take care of each other. After Hall finished speaking, he reached out to his brother, asking him if he wanted to join the trip for the next week. However, the toy monkey suddenly started drumming. The mechanism above instantly triggered, and in a blink of an eye, it knocked off Bill's head. Death is like this, always unexpected. Afterward, Hall left the town with Pete. Looking around, death's presence lingered everywhere. The woman fled pushing a baby carriage on fire. The Grim Reaper leisurely crossed the street. Hall nodded to him, suddenly having an idea. "We should go dancing." Pete agreed to his father's impulsive suggestion. Just as they were about to leave, a truck came rushing in from behind, killing all the students on a school bus. Death always follows closely. Dance with your loved ones while you can. The movie concludes here. It's somewhat like a low-budget version of Final Destination. The central theme of the entire film is that everyone will die, and all lives will meet a cruel end. Director Osgood Perkins' mother died in the 9/11 attacks. Perhaps this experience more or less influenced the creation of the film. The toy monkey symbolizes the sudden misfortunes in life. Being arbitrary and without warning, it casually decides people's fates. So don't hesitate for tomorrow. In every day of your life, dance freely and appreciate it deeply.